it's inevitable that everything I do, everywhere I go, I'm constantly going to be tracked. There's no like, is there a purpose really in trying to prevent this? Alexa's already listening. My phone's already listening. Everything is already listening. Yeah. Okay, Nick has a mouse. Holy
Sorry,
shit.
I can.
Wow.
Nick has a mouse.
Speaking of being a cyborg world, I need my mouse when I go
Okay,
to coffee shops.
May I describe what is happening
Sure,
right now,
sure.
please?
Do you just like store
this is a
that in
perfect
your
way.
forearm?
I think
Is
this is
it
literally a perfect way to open this
unplug
episode.
from the cavity? And then you have
So
it?
Nick is sitting with a 21-inch MacBook Pro next to me right now, with like full
I think it's
XL
at least
screen.
25 inches.
Yeah, dude, it's like
enormous.
full. The size of the mouse pad alone, trackpad is like my hand. And he's got a mouse. So you are like that's how you're comfortable, huh? Like that's you've always had the mouse. You don't
faster.
trackpad it.
I mean, I could, but like way faster with the mouse.
This is faster,
Yeah.
I'm just as
More
fast with a trackpad.
accurate.
That being said, I was way faster in a PC. I could literally navigate a PC without using the mouse.
No mouse.
No mouse, especially in Excel. No mouse at all.
Keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah.
I'm a big keyboard shortcut guy on the MacBook.
Yeah. I
It's
just
not the
do it.
same. You're right.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah, that's true. So how much does it feel like that mouse is a part of your body?
Well, it's in my little knapsack I bring with me everywhere. My backpack. It's part of the daily carry.
Wow.
And so yeah, I think I go full nerd when I'm at coffee shops, and
I like it.
I'm the only one who busts out a mouse.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
Okay,
think when people see him,
I
they're like,
used to have a
guy's legit.
stand at all times.
Oh, yeah.
I got a
used to see you.
stand and a Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse, and I would have it there at like eye level, all ergonomic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang.
he's that guy at the coffee shop.
Yeah, I used to be a coffee shop. That was before I got Ziggy. Once I got Ziggy, I realized I got nothing done at coffee shops because either he was eating something
Yeah.
or like 17 girls were running up being like, "Oh my god, can I pet your dog?" And nothing ever happened.
Can't be a stand guy when
What a
17 girls are
terrible
coming up.
problem. Steven had 17
Hide that mouse
girls.
slowly under the table.
It's a terrible problem if you're trying to build a failing internet business.
Yeah, true. But having women supporting you and entertaining you.
Or supporting the dog, not
doesn't
supporting
sound-
him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Unfortunately, Ziggy was a puppy like during COVID. I got him right before COVID. I got a couple months of walking through Little Italy and hearing people just like scream and run across the street. And then we were just banned from going outside for a bit. And then I missed like his best days.
Your
Man.
best days.
I never had a dog while I was single, but I feel like that's the ultimate alfalfa. Like if you're single, having a dog,
Having a
like,
cute mini Australian
oh my
puppy.
God.
Yeah.
Anything cute, anything fluffy, cute. Like
Oh God, he was
I get
so
stopped
fluffy.
every 30 seconds when I'm walking outside. I'm always like,
I mean,
okay.
you have the best dog name.
Yeah, they melt when I say his name. They get even more excited.
Mushi.
Yeah.
What does Mushi mean?
It literally means little mouse.
In Farsi.
Yeah, it means little mouse.
And then they're like, oh my
But it's
God, he
really
speaks
a
another
way
language. And
to
then the
say-
love affair
It doesn't
continues on. Yeah.
translate.
It's really a way to say like cute little thing. You know?
Is it like a term of endearment that
Yeah.
you would say to like your
Mushy.
girlfriend
You
or something?
could. You could be like, you little moosh, you little mushy.
It's funny
Yeah.
how words like all sound like what they are.
Yeah.
Except in German, they all sound
like fighting.
just
Yeah.
like they're about to murder you.
I love you is like, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to do my German. No, you could probably do a good German.
No,
No?
no, I'm just.
We're not gonna get a German accent?
I'm just gonna sound like Hitler. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. That's why I stopped. That's literally why I stopped.
know
I was
you're-
like, I don't have more than 3
You
words.
pick the white guy, you're
Kinda.
like, you'd be good at sounding German. Yeah.
I know what I'm
Very
getting. I know what
self-aware.
I'm getting baited.
Oh man. Okay, so we're talking about technology. We're talking about human cyborg, right? We're talking about
We're talking about like life,
future.
yeah, like life in the Matrix.
yes,
We're kind of like Matrix adjacent now.
yes.
You could call it metaverse. I don't know. I don't care what the word is. We like live this partial hybrid, like robot digital life.
Do you think the metaverse is like the intermediate step before full Matrix kind of thing?
I mean, how do we define Matrix? Is Matrix predicated on like there's somebody like evil programming us? Because if so, it's still kind of Matrixy. Like TikTok is pretty Matrixy. Like you are
Right.
fed a world that you want to see. It's cultivated to You're just eating the steak that you like all the time. Like, oh man, I love this steak over and over again.
That's pretty good.
So it's not that different. I mean, I guess your body's not being harvested as a battery, as far as
Yet.
we know, anyway. Maybe.
According to simulation theory, it probably is. You know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like the Facebook stuff is interesting. They changed their entire name. They really backed themselves into a corner there.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't know. I wonder if what they're doing looks really stupid in retrospect. Like it just like we've had these.
They pivoted off like a nearly $1 trillion business valuation to do this thing. They must have like really high conviction there.
Yeah. And
There's the end of a life cycle of a business, in my opinion, and it was required for longevity's purposes.
but like maybe it's smart. Maybe they're just not going to be Kodak, you know?
No,
Right.
he's playing long-term games. Like he's saying, like we're going to invest in this for the next 10 years, and it may not produce cash immediately, or for for
It's the
another
only way to stay
decade.
relevant.
Yeah.
I just wonder if we're all sitting here right now, like, what is Metaverse? Like that old clip of
Yeah.
Brian
yeah, I could
Gumbel,
totally
like-
see that.
what is internet?
What is email?
We're like wearing like these weird goggles on our face, and our kids are gonna be like, "Oh my god, this is so cringe."
So bring this down to earth for me though. Like, what are we trying to solve here? We're trying to figure out like how to live and be still human in this world. Like, where as things get, increasingly more matrixy, metaverse devices start being attached to your body. As I have one on my arm.
I think, that is what we're trying to solve. I think it's a question of, it's a pill question. It's a red pill, blue pill question. I think that's really what
There's a lot of
what we're
questions.
asking.
I think that is a good starter question.
Yeah.
I was reminded of,
So-
so I have a dad who's a bit of a hermit, although he apparently listens to this podcast now. So hi, Dad.
Wow, hi, Dad.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, hello.
So he probably listens to it like on his computer, I'm guessing, because he doesn't have a cell phone.
Wait. He never had a cell phone.
He owned a cell phone for like, I feel like it was like 3 weeks, and he was just like, nope.
Whoa, Mr.
Can you?
Cesaro.
How?
Very nice.
What rough age range is your dad?
Don't say that to me. But he's like, he's in his very, very late 60s. And he got a cell phone back when cell phones weren't even iPhones, right? Like he got like a Nokia or like a Motorola Razr.
So
and he was like,
before all that.
this is just like too overwhelming. I hate that. I hate that somebody can call me
Yeah.
at any time. Like that was his thing. Like it's
He likes
so
being untethered.
yeah, and I think about the world now, and it's like people calling me is like the least of my. I just auto silence every call basically.
Yeah.
So I don't have to hear that. That was the easy part. But like I am getting like bing, 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 bing notifications left and right. We live online. We work online.
Dude, I can't remember if I said this on the pod or off the pod. I can't. It's all blur at this point. But like the days when, this was on the pod. Like being able to get a hold of you was like impossible before. You'd have to call and leave a message. Hey, is
my
Steven
voicemail's
home?
full.
No, I'm
Can't
talking like landlines.
help me.
Like that was the way.
when I called
you
my
got
dad,
a hold of somebody.
I used to call, and it was like the same answering machine I had when I was 7. It was just like this robot voice, like, "Please leave message after tone, beep," and then I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, Dad,
I've been texting your
Dad.
non-existent phone for the
And then-
Dad,
last.
it's
and then
me.
you pick up.
Dad, hello. All right, call me back." And then I
Yeah.
just did that all
Yeah.
the time, and he'd be like out in the yard chopping wood or something.
And everything turned out okay. Everything was fine, right?
I mean, he seems fine, but there is a purpose to this long rant where I'm like, from my perspective, what my dad did is like kind of absurd. Like it feels like he like cut himself off from civilization and from me, and like I don't think he gets how much friction we have with like the tiniest things now. Like I use DoorDash and voluntarily pay like an extra 40% for my fee to get like food to pick up food because I didn't want to pick up the phone and talk to a human because that was just like I feel like he couldn't even comprehend that, right? So I wore, but like I'm doing the same thing now. I feel like with like the TikToks, right? Like I I don't really want to be on TikTok. And everybody looks like they're just turning into like a robot to me. They're just merging with the thing. But I'm like, am I my dad now? Am I cutting myself off from civilization? So I guess my question to you is like, is there a right amount to like merge with the technology? Like, can you go too far? Can you not go far enough? Are we just like inevitably going to this and like resistance is futile?
Well, yeah. I mean, having a cell phone has like amazing benefits of the fact that you have like a supercomputer in your hand. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, like even if you leave it on airplane mode at all times.
Yeah, I mean,
but
have you
just
seen the
use Wi-
calculator app? It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like
It's my favorite app.
drastically better than whatever your dad's using.
I don't think my dad does a lot of math these days, but I'm sure he could if he wanted to.
It's all relative, right? Like every generation goes through the same thing. And they eventually have to get to the point where they take the pill or not. And they say, I'm going to draw a line or I'm not going to draw a line. I'm going to be absorbed by technology fully and allow it to integrate with me and take over my life, or not at all, or a hybrid. And I think that the right answer is like what is best for each individual. But the discussion today has changed. The discussion today feels new and fresh, but I think the discussion has been happening forever. It's always been a discussion of like, how much is too much? Because technology is a tool. And if you don't use it, it uses you. So I think that this exact conversation has always happened. You know, hey, no, don't put the radio in the bedroom, you know, it has become what? Don't bring the cell phone to the bedroom. And so eventually you have to, for your own sake of like peace of mind and health of mind and the sake of like how you want to show up in the world, you have to draw a line somewhere. And so some people deal with this, I think, by just like being completely off the grid. You know, maybe they just they don't want Google to follow and track them, so they don't sign up for a Google account. They don't have a cell phone, or maybe they have a cell phone with limited apps. Maybe they live off their own, you know, on their own property, you know, like controlling their energy, controlling, you know, everything. And then you have other people that are just like, I don't care. It's inevitable. Kevin Kelly's book, The Inevitable. Technology is growing exponentially. Any sense of like privacy is obsolete. Like, what is this thing battling privacy? It's inevitable that everything I do, everywhere I go, I'm constantly going to be tracked. There's no like, is there a purpose really in trying to prevent this? Alexa's already listening. My phone's already listening. Everything is already listening.
Yeah.
Oh, here's what I realized the other day. I signed up for Clear. They're already scanning my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, how are we-
my eyeballs? I capitulated.
Yeah, scan
I should
eyeballs,
get WorldCoin now.
biometrics. So, like, what is preventing us from living in the Minority Report?
Right.
Great movie.
Great
where in order to,
Did you watch it on the plane, by the
I
way?
watched it on the plane on the way back. It's still so good. By the way, that movie is 20 years old.
Really?
It's 2002.
Yeah, don't tell me
20 years old. 2 decades.
Ahead of its time.
Oh, it was so good. One of the best futuristic movies. Dude, he had to rip his eyeballs out in the movie, if you guys remember,
No,
to
I don't remember that part.
avoid the police. And he was like, you know, innocent or whatever.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that because before you mentioned the Minority Report, you're talking about, you know, all the different types of technology we have. And I think the most important thing for me is like, I still want agency. I still want control. Like, for example, we've talked about how we've eliminated a lot of notifications. I eliminated all notifications, all badges like over a year ago. And like, I don't think I'll ever go
Yeah,
back. Like,
I'm late to that train and I could not be happier.
I miss messages. I'm slow to respond sometimes, but I only go into my messages app when I'm like, now's a good time to respond to messages.
No badge.
And then I go in there and
No
I'm like, oh
notification.
shit, there's a lot of messages in here. And
Dude,
then respond. And
It's
that's
the
fine.
best.
It feels amazing. I'm on Do Not Disturb 100% of the time, unless I know I'm waiting a call from a non-favorite on my list. And I think that's a way to live. And I think it's about, I want to make sure like, at least I feel in control of how I want, the information I want in my brain, because it could be unlimited. And this is coming from someone who leaves one AirPod in and listens to Bloomberg to fall asleep. So, you know, like I still take in
a lot. Yeah.
probably too much information, but it's still on my terms. It's funny because like Minority Report is about agency. Like, has it been decided that you will commit
Right,
this?
right.
And that is the ultimate thing that I think in that thing is people want the idea to be like, I'm in control. I have, you know, I mean, it's not predetermined. I want to be able to control my lifestyle. And so I don't know. I think for me, that's what I'm trying to like, I don't know, thread the needle on all this new technology comes out.
Do you think that you guys blocking notifications is just going to be like the equivalent of people having pagers?
Like
Like, I don't take phone calls. I'm separate from technology. I get a thing, and on my time, I call. Like, and now it's just this totally new paradigm where that's not even a thing you could do. Like, you can't opt out of that. It's so immersive.
Yeah, the reason I not only did this, but I'm so happy that I did this. I did exactly what Nick did, and I shared an article in the Discord that went through all these recommendations. I think I sent it to you too, Steven. It's a little dated, but everything in there is really, really good. And it goes through like how to set up your iPhone to be in control of your life. And first step, literally turn off all notifications except your calendar. And for me, my reminders app. That's it. Everything else is off. The reason I'm really happy about this is that I feel we were at a very important crossroads. And I feel that everything is starting to take over our lives even more rapidly than it used to. And so, yeah, to your point, Stephen, I think like those notifications being on is such a natural thing for most people that they're literally in a constant response game with all of the things going off around them at all times that they've become numb to that. And I became numb to it. And the only reason I've become aware of it is by stepping out of it and then realizing how much my body, my mind was in a hyperactive, hyper-reactive, very, very, very like high stress state without me even realizing it. I didn't even know I was in a high stress state.
Do you think that turning off the notifications like you guys have done is the 80-20 rule of that entire list of things?
Yes.
Like,
Definitely that's the 80-20.
I think I saw the article you shared and it was a long list.
Yeah.
And I didn't even scroll to the bottom because it was like,
it's good.
but I already do the top ones. So I was like,
Right.
I'm fine. Like,
So you have all your notifications off.
I get text messages, but I'm good at like I'm not a slave to respond to the text messages,
yeah.
you know, kind of.
He had a paragraph in that article that went through an argument for like maybe I didn't want to turn off text messages. And he had like a paragraph where he had a really interesting argument for why to just try it. And I was like, fuck, all right. And I tried it and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't. I'm fine.
Mine,
Like,
yeah,
it's
mine
okay.
don't even show on my like like what is it, sleep screen or whatever.
Right.
Like
all off.
I'm gonna turn them off right now. I'm gonna turn off. Right now.
Yeah.
welcome to
Dude,
the club.
It's incredible. And
Hold
no
on,
badges.
I just got a message.
No badges. You go into the app on your terms
It's from Sly.
when you when you want to.
Silent Sly.
So just to evolve the conversation a bit toward this, like, okay, so what is happening really? Things are moving fast. Privacy is completely gone. Notifications have taken over our lives. Technology is getting better and better, and everything is so easy now. So it's all a trade-off, right? In exchange for a loss of like, you know, you're not being intentional. It's not on your terms.
Yeah.
It's on something else's terms. But in exchange, you get a lot of convenience. Is the convenience worth it? And where's the line? Because it's only going to get fucking better. It's going to get so good. So
Yeah, but
do we just become old men who are like the pager guys? Because when do you draw the line? You have to draw it eventually.
I feel like we're like old man yells at cloud right now. Like, I just feel like it's gonna.
Have you guys ever seen that diffusion of innovation? It's like this, I don't know, distribution chart, and it starts off with like the 2.5% of the innovators, then it goes to early majority,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
sorry, early adopters, early majority,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
late majority. Like
Of
I think
course.
there's some part of that where like you will be apt to be the innovator on some things. Like it might be a crypto protocol where you're the innovator, you're the first 2.5% in, it could break or whatever, but there'll be other things where like it feels like you need to defend your humanity. You need to defend your like own peace and mental state. And those things, I don't know. I think our generation has been where we were kids pre-internet to now the extreme is, you know, when you compare those two extremes, it's a pretty far step from where we were when we were, you know, 13 to now. So to us, like, I think it feels like we need to protect, you know, a little sanity there.
Okay, so using that, the best case scenario is that all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. So your only real option, you're eventually going to take on the technology.
But I think in some cases, most people say there's no convenience that would be worth like being like a little stress ball where your nervous system is just being peaked at every single notification. And I know we're talking about notifications only. It's probably broader than that, but like I don't think anything is worth that once you've been on the other side.
Well,
of
I'm talking
that.
like just say a new technology is here. We should come up with an example. And are you going to be an early adopter, first 2.5%, middle, or late? Eventually, if you're a functioning person in society, you will take that on. It's kind of like look at your parents with the iPhone, right? We got the iPhone first.
Yeah.
We got the iPhone 1. It took them a while. They were like, I don't need that.
Right.
But eventually they all have one now.
Yep.
And so my question is like, so should you just not plunge anyway? If it's always going to catch up to you, should you just not stay on top of these things and immerse yourself and become a full-blown, powerful, superhuman cyborg? Because if you don't, all you're doing is you're lagging the race. So your only other option is to be completely out of the race. Like I'm thinking the only option is you are at the forefront of every technology and you're full cyborg. You maintain control where you can with like examples of the notifications and things like that. Or you live on a farm.
Or I'll give you another in betweener. Like you live your day-to-day life.
Nope, that's it.
Notifications, you're hopping in self-driving Ubers. You know, you got like a device on you that's measuring your heart rate and your steps, and you're just like fully plugged in, super productive. But then you take the occasional like
Hiatus.
yeah, like 4-day vacation in Big Sur and just shut it all down and try to like titrate the technology and see what normalization's like. Then step back in and be like, I don't want that anymore. Don't need that anymore. And you just do these like, 6 months of just pure technology productivity. And then you go.
Well, did you
completely
notice
out
like
with that.
when you were in Amsterdam, did you notice that like most people weren't on their phones? Like
Yes.
when I was in Italy
That's
and
what I
France,
noticed.
it's like no one is on their phones.
You saw that too.
At dinner, at drinks. Like
Dude,
everyone is just engaged with each
Especially
other.
at meals.
Yeah. And I
Dude,
think
I meant to talk about
that's like
this
a
with you.
hybrid version of this where you don't have to be like farm or cyborg. Like you can be normal human with the tech and then like put it down for a while.
They're good about it.
They're
They're
very good.
definitely very
Have
good
there
about it.
been certain like experiences as technology has grown and it's integrated more in our life? Have there been certain experiences that have gotten more valuable because they do things like that? They bring you together without technology. I'm sure there have. I'm trying to think of like all of a sudden because we have so much technology, certain things like taking an Airbnb in Big Sur or whatever like becomes that much more valuable because it literally removes you out of that. I mean,
I love that example of like pulling yourself out. Another thing I've been thinking about is like how lucky we are, our generation, and here's why. I always think about this, and I look at the younger generation, and I'm like, you're kind of screwed. You don't know a world without the internet.
Yeah.
You've had God at your fingertips from the moment you were born. Question, answer.
Yep.
From the moment you were born. The knowledge of the universe, I didn't. I had to find answers the hard way. I also grew up, we all did, where you lived in an analog world. And that analog world, bridging from the analog to the digital, going through that experience, hearing that sound of AOL online, connecting to like the internet for the first time, is ingrained in you from middle school. You'll never forget that. You'll never forget going online. You'll never forget the first time you started playing with computers and being able to search, and you had that awe experience of what Google was. Google now is literally just consciousness, man. It's all knowledge ever, and it's only going to continue expanding. But to us, it was like this thing that was being built. All the answers weren't even there yet. The answers have been building over time. They've been getting captured and documented. And Web 1 really created that. Web 1 was like, let's capture our knowledge and publish it to the internet, right? And now it's all there and everyone has access to it. And I think that thing, that growing up with that, you will never be able to let go of that. You'll never be able to step away from that to the ease that we can. So it's like going from analog to digital allows us, to Nick's point, to more easily be able to go on those retreats where you step away and you take the break and you go, I need this. I know what that world is like. You've experienced it. You grew up in it. You're like, there's good there. I don't want to lose that. So as the matrix starts to pull people in and they become full cyborgs in the younger generations, they don't know the difference. They're like, what benefit is there to that, old timer? There's no benefit. I don't see it. I don't know it. I've never experienced it. Therefore, they're less likely to ever keep feet on the ground of this reality. And so what does the future really look like? It looks like people plunging into that reality wholeheartedly.
Just metaverse.
But our generation is the last generation that will keep 2 feet in this reality. Some of us will and some of us won't. And that's the pill. That's the pill that we'll have to choose to take, is like, will you plunge all the way or will you keep some feet in this reality?
Man, I just had a thought that like, you know, I think on the last episode, Steven mentioned that like working with molecules instead of bits, you know, like that's how I'm thinking now. Like the future is going to be really like a dearth of people that know how to like electrical engineer, civil engineer, like work with their hands, like build things. Like it's going to be everybody who knows how to Google stuff and like how to work with online, digital everything, but like nobody's going to know how to like deal with the world.
So, I mean, I thought about that as you guys were talking. Like, there's actually different parts of your brain that will get like emphasized based upon whether you take which route or not. Like, I know I rely heavily on my maps, and whatever part of my brain, the physical part of my brain that is responsible for spatial intelligence, is like an asparagus-like muscle. Right there. It's like
It's gone.
shrinking, and it's like just dark gray matter, just like hasn't been lit up, no electrons firing. I can't get anywhere on my own these days. Like I've tried to drive Steven home to his house, which I've been to 50 times, and I still get lost. But like on the other side of that token, the kids who are playing video games nonstop and who, you know, take to VR like really simply, they might have other parts of their brain that like advance, and
Right.
and that may benefit them, and maybe they're like I don't know, part of their genes that, you know, continue to go on and further gene pools, and I don't know, maybe it's an advantage to them. And at some point we may be like, wow, I don't have the skills
This
this
is
person
how-
has. I don't have quick thinking or sensory movement, or I don't know, whatever may come of that.
Right. This is also how you become conservative, right? Over time, you become conservative because the younger generation is more likely to step into those things. And then you're looking at that going like,
You made the point that it's all
This is
relative in the
better.
beginning. I think that's going to
Well,
end up
yeah.
being the through line of this. But
Yeah.
did you guys happen to see, it was like this, like, I think it might have been Stable Diffusion, where either it was a video or someone put together a video, but they asked AI, show me the evolution of the human species.
Oh, I saw that.
You saw that video?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen this video? Oh, we'll post this in the show notes, Lai. But it starts off as chimpanzees, and then this AI morphs it over, I think it's like maybe a minute video, and you go through like the path of chimpanzees growing into Homo sapiens, and then very quickly at some point it just goes to like a full blown robot. Like basically the human starts turning into like hardware on its body.
It shows like
And then
it
it
shows some like medieval times, like a guy in like armor, and then it like
Yeah.
and then it continues to what Nick's saying. This like
That was
robot.
AI's interpretation of what we will turn into, which is basically like an AI enabled. Like,
why wouldn't we? The human parts wear out.
Well,
That's what we'd have to do.
What do you think is at the root of that, though? Like, what is it that makes us trend towards being robots?
I think that is literally the natural evolution that is taking place of the species.
But
Well,
why?
you said
Like, what is the driver?
atoms
of
to
that?
bits, right? Like
Like most evolution is driven by survival, right? Is this another survival? Is this really survival? Is that what it is? Like, is it just that being a robot is better to survive? So we just trend towards being
I think
robots?
it's the
Is there
highest
something else
advancement
there?
possible that technology is providing. So it's always going to point its compass in that direction of like, how do you become strongest? The strongest advantage is that.
Is evolution just broken fundamentally, though, if we ultimately just turn into robots and we're not human anymore?
No, it's natural.
To be a robot?
Yes.
Why?
It's
Isn't that the
it's
antithesis of natural?
It feels like a leap, but it's not. It's the most natural thing. It is a leap in a sense because it feels like the material is changing. But the material is still the same. It came of this universe.
It's true.
It's here. It's of this planet. It was developed with these hands, with these minds. It's natural.
If you can keep the cognition, then like why do you need the meat anyways?
But you bring up a good point, like about survival and like how do people show superiority, to establish dominance? Like initially it was like by strength and how big you were and how strong, And more so now, it's like how intellectual you are and how can you generate economic capabilities. And I don't know, maybe along the same lines, there's a path where like, the Apple Watch turns into your Apple arm, and that continues where you still see that way to, show dominance, that your genes are the ones that should pass on and not the weaker version. But I do see an argument for where it could go off in a wrong way, because the way you show dominance now is by showing off money you don't have on Instagram, and things like that. So
Like to build on Armand's point earlier, like, is it just, where does it stop? Like if you opt out, then you're just human, right? But if you opt in, do you eventually just become software that exists purely on the internet? Like where does it? Where do you
Stable
stop?
Diffusion.
Do you eventually
predicted.
just
Yeah.
replace your brain, and then you don't have a
I
brain?
mean,
your brain just software, and then
yeah, of course. The easiest way for humans to be an interstellar species.
Wait, you said of course, like, so you think of course we just become software? We just become that like HAL bot and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
If you want to become an interstellar, universal species at some point, you can't like move the
You
like
gotta break the
atoms
speed
that
of
way.
light.
You can't do that. So the best way is just like send your data to the robot
I think that's what it most like
on Venus or
aliens
whatever
are.
the fuck, and then it can withstand in those things. But your Evernote, your Notion, your text messages, all of those things are downloaded into software, packaged up, and your software may live on longer than you.
Oh, this is hurting my brain.
We talked about this we talked about this when we did Aliens one time, but like I think that we're looking for the wrong thing. That's how do you find that? How do you look for that? Conscious software floating around in the universe? You can't find that if it doesn't want to, there's no way to find that. So we're looking for like literally physical, these like flying saucers and like funny looking dudes with like big eyes. But like what we should be looking for, or rather maybe not even looking for, but going and moving in that direction ourselves, is like, okay, what does the future of humanity look like? Okay, I'm gonna give you something, Stephen, though, that just came to me as well. It's just fucking out there. So we've been talking about that it's all relative, right? So eventually you have to draw a line. Every generation has to draw a line eventually, and then they become more conservative. But the only reason they do, and the only reason they can, is because they die. So knowing that you're going to die means that you eventually can draw a line and say, like, that's enough for me, because I've evolved enough and I've experienced enough, and this younger generation that's here is going to go on, and they're choosing to do all the stuff, and they're willing to take all the trade-offs and the things that I don't find valuable. I'm from the analog age. I'm done. I'm drawing a line. But what if we are the ones that were born at a time where we are basically, back to the previous point, immortal? In a world of immortality, if we were in that mode of the singularity is going to occur in our lifetimes, and we're going to have the option for immortality, you actually have an obligation to your own survival to be at the forefront. You can't stop evolving. You have to take the pill, and you have to be at the forefront of it. Because if you don't, there is a scenario where superhumans could easily wipe out the rest of the species.
You would just likely die.
You would die. You would not survive.
I kind of feel like it might not be about that. I feel like it might be about reproducing. And I've noticed this about me and like other people around me. Like I feel like when you partner up, you just like slow down. You stop caring about a lot of this stuff. You're like, almost like, I've got my thing. Like, it feels like a lot of this stuff that people do all the time. It's like, it is survival based, but it's like a propagation of your self based thing. You're like trying to get an edge. You're trying to do that. I don't know if I would probably get more into stuff like if I were immortal, but I don't know if that would be the driving force. Like, I think like you just become content and happy at a particular point, and it's not necessarily tied to immortality, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you think people have the option to like live in different levels of evolution, and they'll be left alone though?
Well,
And that they'll survive for as long as they like to?
Yeah, I don't even think like the human genome would be able to comprehend this thing that you're talking about, that like, oh, if I live forever, that there's just going to be this advanced troop that someday takes over and erases me from Earth. I think like when we're young, we're all in this like race to sort of survive and acquire resources and climb
reproduce.
like the social hierarchy and reproduce. I think in a world where you've already ascended a particular hierarchy and you have reproduced and you've paired up, I feel like you're just less, you just like less wants to do all that stuff, because I think a lot of the root of it is those things, and you've acquired those things.
I would be interested to hear fathers and mothers in the Discord, because like none of us have kids yet, right? You will shortly, but I'm curious, like does the want to like advance, be hyperproductive, does it
I
kind
can
of
tell you already
cool down?
things I'm feeling.
Your priorities obviously are going to change, right?
Already my mind is going more to the home and like inward and like what is my life locally about already. Big time.
And you probably just have less free brain space
Big time.
to process all of this stuff.
Caring. You just don't care
you
as
just, like,
much.
don't-
You're just like, what matters? You
Yeah.
know? I wonder if the different species will break out and just be left alone though in peace, you know? I think there might be like a planet Earth human and then one that ascends and kind of like moves into the
I'd love to see it.
Into
I
the
think
ether.
it's like kind of a human trait to like want to acquire resources, regardless
Maybe
of
they'll
your
just
status
make
as a
us
father.
their pets.
Yeah, maybe.
But once you have kids, don't you want to acquire even more resources? Like it's a part of
where
protecting
you
and
direct
providing,
them, I
at least
think.
from a male perspective. At least
Yeah.
speaking from a male perspective.
I think so. I think we all feel
That's
that,
why I
right?
wonder if it's primarily because like if what you were saying were true, when people had kids, they would suddenly get like super into like new tech and be like, oh my God, I need to explore all these other things. But like the opposite seems to happen.
Right.
So I don't know if that's the root of it. Also, maybe people just get old and they get tired.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm not that tired. I feel like I just don't care.
Well, you're also not that
don't
old,
care about some of these
so
things.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that old.
I mean,
But I
clear-
also don't care. I just don't.
There's
care
even
about
like
some of these
many examples of old dudes that are still fighting to acquire more power and stuff, like Trump, Biden, etc. Like
Yeah.
they have kids.
Yeah. Is that what you meant though specifically? I think maybe it's like are you saying the resources get directed in a different direction?
Yeah, like your priorities
or
change.
more
and
that you don't go and seek for this like external.
Well, I was more
Yeah,
talking
maybe-
to Steven's point that he was
Okay.
saying like we were not going to fight each other. Like we're still going to
Oh,
fight.
yeah.
Like I think there's still going to be, even if one ascends to this realm and one remains human. Like I think there's
Oh
still
no,
gonna be fighting.
I think we'll definitely fight. I just said us becoming pets is the bull case.
Yeah, I could see that.
Do you think there'll be a bear market rally against like the full Matrix? Like at some point, it'll be more popular to like not have the Apple Watch and to be on your own and live on a farm and have your kids
Totally.
and focus on your family rather than
Totally.
There's already like a niche movement of that online.
Yeah.
Like you can see it. Like I feel like your carnivore Aurelius guy is like a.
First of all, you introduced me to him. He's your guy.
No, I didn't.
Well, one of you did. I'm not taking this.
But like he is like this outgrowth
Yeah.
of this like. There's this.
It's a subculture that's growing.
Yeah, they want to get back in touch with simple things and roots and what
Yep.
do we used to eat and what did we used to do? Did we tan our balls in the sun? Like all these kind of basic.
yeah. There's another like Twitter
Questions.
handle called like Save Your Sons, and he's like, no, you lift weights, you eat real food, you grow whatever you can, you live on a farm. Like instead of having like 1,000 meaningless sexual encounters, no, you have one. You're true to your relationship. You have kids. You
Dude, some
focus
of
on
the
that
stuff
family.
they drop is fire. Like it rings true.
But why
A
does it
lot of
ring true? It's because we're teetering on the other edge.
Yeah, I think there's a reaction to it. Like humans are this like pendulum species that swings back and forth. Like I've noticed this in my Twitter feed. I see a lot of young people like posting photos of like women like cooking stew and they're like asking them a question like who's Kanye West and they're like I don't know and then they're like taking care of the kids and they're just like family love
was
these are the
adorable.
values and the kid counts like 22. I'm like wait what like where's there
Okay,
there
so
is
this is growing in like
yeah there is like a
younger-
niche movement of sort of rejection of I
Yeah.
don't know what you would call it but like going
the
back
digital
to,
world.
I don't even know if it's some elements of the digital
Dude,
world.
it's literally the pill.
Yeah.
I think it's the pill. I think it's just like, well,
Yeah. Well, part of the digital world is this idea that you can have everything because there's no scarcity, and we're compressing time, and you can consume more stuff in a shorter time frame.
Yeah, and it's all the things that come with it too, right?
Yeah.
So part of the digital world and taking the pill is like, I'm gonna eat the fake meat, right? It's in my mind, it's processed. That's what we're calling it today. It's seed oils and it's processed and it's all this garbage. But like on the other side, like, no, you're like sticking to the fundamentals. I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, slow down,
Yeah.
hunt the animal yourself, cook it yourself. Like it is very anti that. I think it is
I like
really
both. I mean, I'll be honest.
Same.
I like both sides.
Dude, same. Yeah. Because I love technology.
Yeah, I mean, we use it all the time, but I like when we
Huge
also
fan.
go hang out on a mountain for a night and just,
That's-
drink the water out of the lake and the
Yeah.
river and
I
cook
think
some
we're the
food.
only generation that will be able to do that successfully.
I don't know, man. I think nature has its own pull that's equally as like strong as technology, and I think it will remain, and people will
So
still.
even people that, I mean, Steven's point proves that that's totally doable. That people that were born into the digital age can still reject it.
Yeah.
But what if they're born into it to a degree that they can't separate from it? Because still today, it's like a separate thing. But what
Right.
if it's a part of you? What if you're truly a cyborg? How will you
Like, what if they install a
reject it?
chip into
That's
your
why I'm
brain at
saying
birth? Yeah.
This is the generation that has the choice.
Yeah.
Because it's still not a part of me, literally.
I still feel like even if people are microchipped, they'll just have like a do not disturb mode on where you just like live in the world, you know? And then you turn your chip back on, then
Sign me up.
all your virtual holograms appear around me, and we're hanging out in the augmented
Screen time
reality
becomes
metaverse.
cyborg time,
Yeah, I mean,
online time.
but yeah, I think the kids will be all right. I think human progress is, I mean, it's like a price chart. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. It's swingy, but it trends in a particular direction, and people go back and forth, and we overcorrect, and then we take the stuff that was good and throw out some of the bad stuff, and the next generation overcorrects, and they get some stuff right and some stuff wrong. I don't think people are doomed. I think it'll just be different, but like I really don't know exactly where we're going, because it does seem like we're just trending towards software.
I could see a world where like technology can give you the same dopamine rush and the same feeling of peace that you have over a campfire in the woods, in the mountains, staring at the stars, watching Starlink, fool you into it's a UFO. Like that feeling
Oh,
of like
God.
being out
No,
there
don't say that.
over, for hours at a time, and the like decompression you get. It would be sad, but also highly possible that like technology could give you that same feeling.
Totally.
In
Like,
the
you
very
wouldn't
near
need to-
future,
you
where you're
wouldn't
like,
need to do that. You would
why do I need to sit on the plane for 14 hours
Be in your
to go
VR
there
goggles
and go?
or-
Yeah, when I can just throw on the goggles and look at the Great Lakes or some of the fjords and like wherever that may be, or get the experience of climbing Kilimanjaro.
What do you guys think about VR though? Because these are two different paths to the future, right? This is like Ready Player One, and the other is that like what's already here, this overlay of our environment is like undergoing a fundamental change, and my physical body is undergoing a change, right? Where technology and I are merging. But then the other one is like I go into the goggles, into the lens, into my inner world, into a virtual world. Both of these are being called the metaverse, and I don't think that there's like a clear difference of like which direction we're trending, which one is more, kind of like controllable and admirable as like a path. I think there's a bit of a war happening as well, like of realities, not like kind of like the culture war, but like it's like a reality war a little bit. It's like which direction is technology trending? And I think technology is going to resolve that war itself, because the one that humans work with their hands and with their minds to create the preeminent technology in will be the universe we enter in a way, right? I don't know.
It's a hard question. I think we're trending augmented, personally, but
We don't see it enough, but that's the one I prefer too.
predicting these things is a bit of a fool's errand. But yeah, I feel like the phone is sort of augmenting your existing reality in a way. I think like the phone is just going to get more and more and more realistic. Like I don't know, I can envision a future where instead of watching TikTok on this thing you hold in your hand, it just sort of happens in front of you, and it's sort of happening in front of you, and like there's like a projection of an image, but like you're still here, and it's
But
like
you're minority reporting the scroll with your
and
hands.
it's like you're not necessarily in that immersive environment, but you're just consuming that in a much more useful way that's like less primitive, and then maybe that becomes a contact lens or something. That makes sense to me. I can see. I don't know. Beat Saber is pretty fun in VR.
So fun. So fun.
Maybe there'll be some niche use cases of that. But like, yeah, the headset's probably going to look really stupid in 50 years. It'll probably just be a contact lens. or
Right, it'll look
something.
completely different.
Yeah. And
Did you guys listen to any of Balaji's content lately? He came out with like an 8-hour podcast,
that
and
thing
then
is
he was
so
like,
long.
he's on so many
I
different
just
ones.
heard 8-hour podcast and I refuse.
I got
I
clickbaited.
listened to 4.5 hours of it without realizing I had listened to
Whoa.
4.5 hours of it, and I looked at it and
That's
it was halfway
impressive.
done, and I immediately just stopped it.
So did you hear the part where he's talking about voice versus exit?
No.
No.
Okay, so he brought this up in 2013 at like Y Combinator speech day, and he talked about this idea called voice versus exit. Voice is like changing the parameters of the game that you exist in, and exit is like leaving that game. He uses examples like you can like patch code or you can fork code, and that one is like voice, one's exit. He goes on many examples, but I think like as we're talking, he said that in 2013 he's like the biggest task of our lives as technologists is going to be to enable exit for the masses. And I think there's no better way to do that than virtual realities. Like you can exit reality, like your shitty reality. A lot of people live in like bad realities.
Yeah.
And if you can just like enable exit,
Yeah,
That's
that's a good point. Do you ever think we're in like this like elitist bubble where we're like, oh, I love that we can go to a mountain and be in touch with nature? Where in reality, somebody might just be like, I wish I could just live like Nick Urbani's life just for like 5 minutes.
Oh,
just,
yeah,
what,
100%.
I just want to like go get a coffee in the morning in his thing. Like that's all I want. And like to your point, just enabling these experiences that's like really epic, and you're only at the point where you want to escape them once you've gone like all the way up the freaking totem pole.
Yeah.
But like most people want to just get on that ladder and climb it.
Good self-awareness. Very true. Yeah. Think about that. We have to stay aware of that. That's one of the Stoic ideas as well, is like the whole idea of like being homeless, like experiencing that, stripping yourself down all the time. That's kind of like a motivator for you, right? Like why you intentionally step away outside of these things. That's why I do it.
Right.
It's for that philosophical advantage, that reason of like staying 2 feet on the ground on planet Earth, not getting too far out there and forgetting like the value of like what you're enjoying, because otherwise you just become some sort of like hedonistic pleasure seeking junkie, and it's a new form of dopamine and you're just stuck and lost and addicted. So
Well,
Yep.
Stoic VR does sound like the worst VR of all time.
I will be all over it. I will be all over it.
Oh, I'm in a white room. There's nothing here except a bowl of rice and beans on the ground.
Yeah. And a
Okay.
potato sack for clothes.
Stoicism is much more sexy than that,
We'll
but
have
not much more.
we'll have to talk about that sometime.
Oh, man.
That would be a good topic.
That was good.
Actually.
I love our cyborg future topics. That was great.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Next week, back to drinking. For Armand, at least.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Thank God.
I love how people notice in the Discord. They're like, "So, can you guys start drinking heavily
I
again?"
brought it up.
all
I
right.
mentioned it myself. All right, guys. Love you. Peace.
Bye.